Right. Well, I think we are ready to begin again. So, this is our lightning round coming up, and our moderator is going to be Dr. Diana Dell. And if you attended our conference last year, she was one of our presenters last year. Diana is the Director of Educational Technology for the College of Education at Missouri Baptist University. And if there's one thing you should know about her, it's that she is passionate for AI. I think she would call it one of her superpowers, right, Diana?
Absolutely, yes.
So we thought that she would be an excellent moderator for this next session. She'll introduce each of the lightning round speakers, and they each have different amounts of time depending on their topic. But we've asked them to allow a little bit of time at the end of their presentations for Q&A. Then at the end of their presentation, Diana is going to wrap us up with a charge to our participants today that I think you will find very encouraging. And then following that, we'll go into our prize drawing. So Diana, thank you for being with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you very much, Sherry. It's amazing how much information we've already covered in the first 2 hours, but yes, there is more. So we're going to have three presenters. We're going to start with Dr. Robert Cole, and he is the program director for the Reinhardt Center at St. Louis University. And Robert joined the Reinhardt Center staff in 2019 after serving as a faculty member in the School of Education for 19 years. And he has more than 30 years of experience teaching elementary, middle, secondary, undergraduate, and graduate students. Oh my. And he has taught technology integration, curriculum and instruction, and instructional design in higher education, and he still teaches undergraduates in an adjunct capacity. Robert, we've never met in person, but gosh, we should meet and have a long conversation.
I'd love that.
So take it away, Robert. You have about 15 minutes.
All right, then I will start sharing here so we can proceed. All right, everybody good with this?
Yes, we
So,
could see.
all right. So I wanted to start with goals. And first, we want to talk a little bit about what generative AI is as far as the definition is concerned. I want to think about the capabilities and positive impacts of generative AI, and we want to examine some of the issues and concerns as they relate to society. So that's a lot to do in a short amount of time. So I want to go ahead and get started. So what is generative AI? As we define it, I looked to things like MIT Review and some others. William Heaven says that generative AI is a set of technologies that make computers do things that are thought to require intelligence when done by people. Bowen and Watson, in their book, Teaching with AI, say that generative AI is any type of AI that uses deep learning models to generate and create new content. Narayanan and Kapoor in AI Snake Oil say that it is a technology capable of generating text, images, or other media. Artificial intelligence is about machines which act intelligently, typically making predictions or decisions about multiple aspects of the world in which we live. This is Adrian Miller in 2018. So this is when generative AI was just starting and predictive AI was really more of what was going on at that time. He's with the Turing Center. Many of us think of Alan Turing as sort of the beginning or the impetus of thinking about AI. And I always thought that his 1950 paper was sort of the entry into that discussion. But I recently learned that they were thinking about artificial intelligence as early as 1943. So that's kind of mind blowing a little bit. Ethan Mollick, who is a prolific writer from University of Pennsylvania, says that this acts AI acts as a very elaborate autocomplete, kind of like you have on your phone. And I really like that definition, but generative AI is really a combination of all of these definitions. It's really hard to put into a box just what we're talking about. It's quite complicated, but when we're talking about something like this, it really is something about how it acts, and the artificial, I think, needs to be emphasized on intelligence. It does act in a way that humans might act, but more on that later as far as the human aspect. Another thing generative AI is evolving. So 56, almost 60 years ago now, Moore's law was introduced, and Moore said basically that computer power doubled every 12 months. And as time has gone by, that really has been stretched to 18 to 24 months. But I think it's remarkable that when it turned 50, there were several folks that wanted to know, is Moore's law still applicable? Does computer power still double every 12 to 24 months? And they found that it was still very much still in place. And the other interesting thing I thought was now nearly 60 years in to Moore's law. I'm wondering if that time frame is back to 12 months and it's maybe even accelerated. As we look at what's happened in generative AI over a short amount of time. This timeline is just for ChatGPT. So the first ChatGPT was in 2018. It was introduced, laying groundwork for LLMs as we know them now. And frankly, it was pretty bad. There was a lot of repetition in responses when you asked it to do something that we would think of as creative, like write a poem or a song or something along those lines. Again, it was very repetitive. There were nonsensical kinds of answers. So you could certainly elicit certain things from it, but the quality of those things was not particularly great. 2 years later, 24 months, ChatGPT-3 was released. And this is the one that sort of set all of us on our heels a little bit. It was a large language model with 175 billion parameters. The things that it produced, the things that it generated sounded more human. This is when folks started looking at whether or not this is going to change higher education period. And it was a big deal when it came to natural language processing, because we didn't have to communicate with a computer in some sort of code. We could simply type what we wanted it to do in a natural language kind of way. And that was a huge breakthrough. In 2021, only a year later, DALL-E was a generative image creating technology. So this uses a different kind of model. So the large language model is largely text-based, and a diffusion model is used for images. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. In 2022, ChatGPT offered 3.5, and in 23, 4. So these are rather large steps as we move forward in this timeline for what ChatGPT is able to do as far as reply or respond to what we ask of it. In May of last year, ChatGPT introduced 4.0, which is way different than 4. But this offered enhanced artificial intelligence and other features and made it free. So a lot of us could go in and that were not able to access all the possibilities from ChatGPT before, then we were able to. And in just September, right after that, then there was 0.1, which is, again, a huge step up, because OpenAI then claimed that it could reason like a human. So these are very fast-moving changes over the last few years. And that certainly does not seem to be slowing down at all. As a matter of fact, Kevin Weil, who is the chief product officer for OpenAI, has said that recent predictions are that we may achieve superintelligence by 2027. And superintelligence was a concept that I was introduced to through Nick Bostrom. If anyone wants to read that book, Superintelligence, that's the title. Nick Bostrom is the author. It's a fascinating read and one that will certainly, again, make you sort of think about how this could change things. This was, again, my introduction to AI. It was written in 2013. And superintelligence is when the computers can actually do things better and faster than a typical human could do them. Gen AI is being welcomed. Many disciplines and private sector users use it. Periodicals have been using it for years. AP finally, after ChatGPT came out, finally said, yes, we've been using it since 2015. Particularly in disciplines like computer science, business, and health fields, they're really embracing generative AI. Recently, the things you can do with video are remarkable. So generative AI is really being welcomed by a lot of different disciplines. Students are using generative AI to assist them in their writing, which we, of course, knew about. And which I also find interesting is academics are also using generative AI to assist in research. There are some research-specific generative artificial intelligence, one called Elicit specifically comes to mind. But I know, for example, of an instructor that actually used part of generative AI to actually create some of a grant proposal. Just marveling at what it can do. It's mind-bending. What it isn't is human, and we need to think about that. Anthropomorphism is dangerous. We want to make sure that we know the relationship between human and machine, and be careful about how we think about it and how we communicate it to students, college students, but also, younger students who are using this. Rather than talk about how systems learn, we can think about how they're programmed or designed, because they are indeed designed. They're algorithmic, they're statistical, they don't really learn. And they don't look and they don't see, they don't recognize, they have no feelings, no ability to understand, but they're really good at pattern matching, generating and producing things based on what we're asking them. It's not environmentally friendly, I'm afraid. It takes a lot of power. In 2025, it could use as much as 10 gigawatts of electricity. So, that sounds like it's only 10 units. It's not that much. 1 gigawatt just for training things. So what is a gigawatt? We're talking about 1 billion watts, 1 million kilowatts. The average household uses about 10,000 kilowatts per year. 1 gigawatt could power around 876,000 homes in a year, just on 1 gigawatt. They're talking about needing, 25 for some of the things that they're doing. So nuclear power is hopefully going to be something that we can get away from fossil fuels and the power production now. But right now, our primary way of generating energy is fossil fuels. So that's not very good for our environment. So how does this work? At its roots, again, it's a statistical model. There are transformer models. That's how they produce text, and diffusion models. That's how they produce images. Once they get an input, transformers analyze the prompts and they deconstruct those and create tokens. And these tokens are then examined, and they are parts of words, whole words. But they're assigned when we get that prompt to the AI. And once the tokens are assigned, then they're analyzed for best fit percentage. So what comes next? What's the best word that can come after this previous word? And responses are generated statistically by identifying that probability for the next best word. And it does that for the next word, and then the next word, and then the next word, until it gets to a sentence. And the next sentence is generated the exact same way, and the next sentence until it gets to the completion of whatever it is we asked for it to do. It's important to note that generative AIs do not pull from a database of works to generate the response. So they've analyzed different works to look for patterns and word choices. They analyze how sentences are constructed. But when we ask for something, it doesn't go to a database and pull things out, as some of my colleagues certainly have thought. And so that's one of the reasons that we look at, is this plagiarism when students use it or not, and that kind of thing. So that's something to remember, that don't necessarily pull from a database. And so I just have a couple minutes left, and that was just a whirlwind. I am true to the lightning and lightning round. But it is truly a marvel. It can truly be something that is a huge boon for education, and it could be something that is tragic for education. It's all in the intentionality that we use when we design our assignments, what we do with AI, and how we introduce it to our students. Is it a tool, or is it a way to get around things? And that's up to us to a large degree. So hopefully some of these things will help you to understand. And if I did not have my presentation beforehand, but I'll make sure that the organizers get the presentation. So anybody wants the slides, you'll have them. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to entertain them.
Yes, Robert, I do have one question that I
Sure.
have. And thank you for that wonderful overarching view of generative AI. Very good for beginners who are just getting started with this. But as someone who spent a lot of time working with AI, what would you say is the most innovative way that you have seen AI used? It could be content development, it could be an instructional process, it could be a student assignment. What would you say would be the most innovative way?
I really think that one of the most innovative ways I've seen it is when instructors are helping students to think critically with its use. So having it produce a response to a question, and then being able to go back and look at the response, compare it to things that are already out there, compare it to things that have been done in the class, and think about, you know, is be able to ask it questions like, what am I missing? Or what have I not thought about? And so it helps students push their thinking rather than do thinking for them. I think that's probably the pitfall in a lot of this, is allowing any kind of artificial intelligence to usurp human thinking. That to me is the largest pitfall. What we really want it to be able to do is to help us think, not think for us. And I stole that, I have to say, from Chris Dede, former Harvard professor of educational technology.
Yes.
Give
So
credit when credit's due.
it's AI should be a thought partner. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Robert. We're going to move on
Thanks.
to our next presenter, and that is Jonam Wong. And Jonam has been an instructional designer in higher education for almost a decade. And most recently, he works at MBU. So I do know Jonam. And in addition, he is currently working on his PhD at St. Louis University. And Jonam is going to share some information about Notebook LM. Jonam, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, good morning, and welcome. So, my name is Jordan Wong, and over the next few minutes, I'm just going to show you how Notebook LM can actually help you to manage complex information. So, whether you're creating just a very engaging course, or if you're just like me, if you are just wanting to dive into a research project. So today I'm just going to cover everything from uploading your sources to generating deep dive conversations. And I'm going to illustrate all of these concepts with two very specific case studies. So let's begin. Okay. Yeah, so let me see if I can minimize. Okay. So let me just begin by talking about a very common challenge with many AI tools, so hallucinations. So what does it mean is that sometimes, as you know, AIs, they tend to generate or even fabricate some information that's actually inaccurate. So for example, when you are asking AI for some cooking tips, ChatGPT or some sort of generative AI platform can tell you that, okay, so the secret to a perfect souffle is actually whispering words of encouragement to eggs while performing an interpretive dance. And, jokes aside, my point is that, one of the most amazing advantages that I'm seeing that Notebook LM can do is that it can help you avoid such pitfalls by grounding its responses only in the specific sources that you upload. So personally, for me, I've used it for maybe about, 7 or 8 months now. I like to think of Notebook LM like a hyper specialized research assistant with a PhD in speed reading as well as pattern spotting. Or I hope that you can see on the image here on the slide, Notebook LM is kind of like a caffeine jack librarian with a photographic memory, and it's got, the smarts to skim through a mountain of books faster than you can even say decaf. So this precision really sets the stage for everything that I'm going to cover today. So for those of you who have never used Notebook LM before, I'm going to provide a very brief 60 seconds overview. So what it is that Notebook LM is actually an AI assistant or AI powered research assistant designed to help you to organize, to synthesize, or as well as to quickly access insights from complex information. And it really allows you to integrate diverse sources of content as well as interact with them using natural language queries. So basically, it's making it much easier to extract key information, key ideas, as well as providing you some actionable details. And now I'm just going to show you, I'll just do a really quick live demo where I'm just going to walk you through some of the Notebook LM workflow. As you can see on my screen, so this is actually, I'll be using a notebook that I've created beforehand. So when you opened up Notebook LM, the first thing you will need to do is to create a notebook. So you can see that here is this button. It's called Create New. And when you click that, it would just, Notebook LM would just generate or create a brand new notebook for you. So think about it in the sense that, a notebook is like your personalized digital research binder where every single document and conversation is neatly stored here as well as easily accessible. Once you're in this notebook, you will notice that on the left side of the panel, you'll notice here is a button. It's called Add Source. So clicking this will allow you to upload your materials. And I'm just going to upload a source that I downloaded ahead of time. So basically, as you might be able to see right here, so Notebook LM, it supports many file types from Word documents to PDFs and even MP3s. And you can even import from Google Drive and or URLs such as such as YouTube links or even websites. And for me, the most amazing thing is that, it even supports over 30 non-English languages sources. And I have personally tested with traditional and simplified Chinese with really remarkable accuracy. And now I'm going to just turn to a notebook that I created ahead of time. It's called Introduction to Climate Change to show you how, or, some of the things that Notebook LM can work. So in the middle of your screen, you can see a chat box where you can interact with Notebook LM. So basically, it interacts with your uploaded content, your content, and then you can ask questions. And right now, let me just do this. So I'm going to ask Notebook LM this question: what is climate change? And you can see you will really just take maybe about less than 20 seconds or so, and then you will just generate some sort of answer based on what you're asking it. And this query will basically allow Notebook LM to pull all of the relevant information from your sources. And you will notice that for all of these, responses, or like for all of these nodes, they actually have some small numbered citations. And these are called, node numbers, or just, citation numbers. And if you click on those, like I have done just right now, Notebook LM is going to indicate exactly where in your original sources the information was found. So basically, this is amazing because you can scroll through, on the left side panel, and then see, this highlighted area where, for this first sentence, Notebook LM is pulling all of the information from this paragraph. So this interactive feature allows you to quickly verify details, and then, again, just like what I mentioned, it avoids the pitfalls of AI hallucination. And you can even, at the end of the note, you can even click this button, Save to Note. Basically, you'll be able to save your notes for future reference, and you will just appear on the right side of your panel. And right now, I'm going to show you on the right side, the panel on the right side, which is called Studio. And here, under Studio or Audio Overview, you will see this option for a deep dive conversation. So basically what this does is that once you click this, generate button, it's going to generate, you will just basically, based on your content, based on all of the sources that you uploaded, to generate a podcast-like discussion between two hosts, and usually is a male as well as a female. And I think on average for me, I think it takes maybe about 3 to 4 minutes to generate that. And the fantastic thing is that, you can even click this customize button where you can customize your podcast or your discussion. You can adjust the tone, the depth, or even focus. So for example, you can request a more thorough analysis if your material is very, very complex, like a huge, dense philosophical text. Or if you're really short on time, you can just opt for a very concise summary. And I want to, just talk about some really interesting use cases for this feature, because I think, man, this is just so fantastic. So for example, this is what I read online. So a couple, they uploaded a house inspection report to Notebook LM and generate some responses in order to uncover every single detail of a property's flaws. And as a result, this is actually real, they were able to negotiate the selling price very effectively. And in another instance, so apparently this is what all the cool kids are doing now, and then I've done it once as well. So basically, you can upload your own resume or your CVs, and then you can generate an audio overview. And then what will you receive? So basically, you'll be receiving what turns out to be a very brutally honest and yet free counseling or even, or like a therapy session. So this flexibility really makes Notebook LM incredibly versatile. And now with the remaining of the time, I'm going to show you about two case studies to show you how you might be able to use Notebook LM. So as you can see on this picture, so maybe for the first case study, you can think about the work of instructional design, or what I do as an instructional designer. So you can picture an overworked and yet overachieving instructional designer in higher education who's tasked to develop an online module on introduction to climate change for environmental science undergraduates. And, judging by her wild hair and the 2 cups of coffee on her desk, it looks like, she's really going to have her personal climate crisis. So what does she do? So Notebook LM jumps in and it will help her to save her from a total meltdown. So our ID is going to upload an IPCC summary report, a journal article on greenhouse gas emissions, or even lecture slides on climate feedback loops. And then she's going to put in a prompt to ask Notebook LM to identify the core climate change concepts, or maybe even just suggest several examples or case studies relevant to undergraduate learners. And then within a few moments, Notebook LM is going to synthesize the materials and maybe even just highlighting some key ideas like the role of carbon dioxide in global warming, and even pulls a statistic like a projected 1.5 Celsius temperature rise by 2030. So what happens in this case? So our really hardworking and overworking and overachieving ID is going to look like a kid in a candy store. So her smile lights up the entire room and shines through, and it even shines on her colleagues as she builds her very robust lesson plan in record time. And now I'm going to show you how Notebook LM can help, from a research perspective. So, at this stage of my own personal doctoral studies, my research sometimes, it just looks like, it's through a really wild party, with papers and notes everywhere. But then 7 months ago, Notebook LM shows up like the ultimate party planner, organizing every crazy detail into order. So picture me, a PhD student in humanities, I have to dive into the wild world of 20th century China to show how the epic chaos reshaped contemporary literature. So my project is like, just like sorting through a mountain of ancient scrolls mixed with Mao's rallying cries, and then even including Mao's little red book and scholarly articles and lecture notes that basically look like, they were written like 5 centuries ago. So what do? So I upload all of these sources. I asked Notebook LM to identify maybe some of the recurring themes of socio-political upheaval and cross-reference them with personal reflections and historical events. And then in no time, this tool spits out a coherent synthesis, is showing you how the Cultural Revolution turned literary expression into a dramatic soap opera. So it really just helps me, to turn a huge and ginormous research task into something that's almost manageable for a PhD student. And then it also opens up some really new avenues for me to do deeper literary analysis. So to wrap up, so today, we've explored how Notebook LM can transform your work, whether you're developing an engaging course module or even just tackling some really complex research projects. And then we've even looked at how you can upload a variety of sources and generate clear summaries or even create audio overviews. And, for the two case studies that I've provided, I really want to throw some ideas into your mind today, and then just to show you that actually the possibilities are truly endless. So thank you so much, for your time on this, Friday morning, and thank you so much for your attention. And then I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have for the remaining of our time.
Well, Jonam, you used all of your time, so which is fine. I will tell you though that there's been a lot of Q&A happening in the chat. So if you do have questions, uh, I would encourage you to go to the chat, take a look. It might have already been asked and answered there. So thank you very much. And we are going to go on to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Gerald Enoch. And Gerald, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. And he holds a PhD in education with a focus on teaching with technology and teaching and learning processes. With more than 30 years in academia, he's been a teacher trainer, a program coordinator, and an instructional designer. He's taught in the United States and overseas. He is currently an instructional designer, and he helps faculty with thoughtful, purposeful, and very deliberate course design that makes the most of the current trends in educational technology. So much of that current interest has been in the ethical implementation of AI for education while maintaining a focus on achieving measurable learning outcomes and meeting the needs of today's student population. So Gerald, please take it away. You have 20 minutes.
Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Great. I thought I'd start off with a quiz. So I just put some stuff up on the screen. Maybe you know these things, maybe you don't. I'm going to spend 30 seconds. I'm going to sing the Jeopardy theme and say, how many do you know? Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Look at that. 2, 3, 4, 8. 8. Uh-oh. We've got 8. Let's see who's get close to 8. Not enough. That's a good answer. Okay. So how many are on there? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 12 on here. This one's a kind of a giveaway because that one's actually called pi. So everyone should have 1 because pi is actually pi. But let me go to the next screen and we'll look at the answers. These are some of the chats that are out there that you can interact with. Obviously, everyone knows this one. DeepSeek. I don't know. This is kind of a new kid on the block. Some people may have heard of it. Gemini, Meta, LeChat. I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. Copilot, Claude, Perplexity. Did you know there are 2 Groks? You may not have known, but now you do. There are 2 Groks. Grok with a K and Grok with a Q. Hume, which is my new favorite way to have conversations at night. I use my phone and I talk to Hume about anything and everything, Pi, Po, and Leo. So let's just look at where those things come from. So I made this in Canva, and I had this brilliant idea because I that was tasked with, can you catch us up to like how we got to where we are right now? I didn't know other people were going to be kind of doing this, so I don't have to focus on this a lot. But I started in Canva in a timeline mode, and it put everything into portrait. And so when you convert that into a presentation, it goes landscape. So this is kind of funny that it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. But anyway, so the only reason why I wanted to talk about any of this is because I think we all kind of remember November of 22 as being this moment of ChatGPT, and then you all remember the reactions. This is the end of everything, and then other people said, "Oh, this is the beginning of everything," and then other people said, "This is just how things change." And there was a response across the country where people banned it all, and so there was a kind of initial flurry of activity about what was happening with that. But I think the reason why I wanted to put this in here is because there was like a initial American response, and Mistral has been going for a while now, and it's just maybe in the background that people aren't paying attention to. And I just wanted to throw it out there that this is an international thing. It's not just for It's not just American companies. Mistral's been around, and their chat that they have is called the chat. So if you saw that in the last slide, they actually have their own. It's an English version. I mean, you can speak French to it, but it's an English version, and I have used it, and I can't tell any big difference because I don't get into the nitty gritty of all these things. But then Claude is the one that I use the most. But the other players is if you don't know about DeepSeek, I'll just do 2 seconds. Is DeepSeek released this thing called V3, and then following that R1, and V3 was basically what they did was they announced it. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but China doesn't have access to all of the resources that the people, the players in the US do because of the chips, the video chips that they use to do all this stuff. And it's a long thing about NVIDIA and blah, blah, blah. But they managed to do it with older chips and for like a fraction of the cost. Other people were spending billions, and they spent 50 million and made something that competes. And they've now just an offshoot or the competition from China is coming, and I'll talk about that in a second with this new video producer as well. So the AI race is worldwide. It is not just the US. There's companies all over the world competing. And then I just wanted to throw this in here too, that there was a moment when all of the companies said, you know what, we need to worry about ethics and care about ethics, and we need to have a constitution. We need to think about these things, and we need to slow down before we just get ahead of ourselves. And so there was a call for a pause to really ask the ethical questions about this. And while everybody was talking about the pause, everybody continued. So the pause never actually happened. And so like I think even Elon Musk signed the pause, and we all know now that he was developing Grok in the background while he was pausing. It's the question of ethics that was brought up earlier. Yes, it continues today, and I'll talk about some of that in just a second too. So I put a list in here just so you could see some of the things that are available. And this column, and I put in like what the company is, how much it costs. And this is what I like. For me, this is the logical next step, is that you can communicate with. And the reason why I was talking about Hume on my phone or Chat GPT is that I just talk to it. So I just pick it up and I say, hey, what about this movie from 1952? Tell me more about that. And then I can have a conversation about things, which inspired me to do something that I'll show to you just a little bit later. And the other part of that, so I believe that the next phase of all of these is that you're going to just have conversations. That typing is like the Commodore 64 version of all of these things, or the TRS 80s, or that we are now in a conversational world. All of these things, you will just be able to talk to it, and it will talk to you, and that should be. I imagine all of these will be competing for versions of that this year. And then if you see this last type, these large language model based, and then what they're moving into, and you can see these top ones up here, is the RM, which is the reasoning model. And what the reasoning models do is they actually can show you the steps of what they did and show you how they got to that place. And so this next iteration is past the large language model, which is just prediction, where it's actually it's recognizing its own work and showing you. So this is like what we do with students when we say, I need you to demonstrate your work. It's demonstrating its work. So the next iteration is it's able to show you how it got to where, and it will show you the logic that it used to get to that place. And then this was brought up earlier about the ethics of things. This is what I talked a second ago about, like 3 billion was spent on Chat GPT, and 5.6 million was spent on DeepSeek to as a startup cost. Huge differences in cost. That was one of the flags that people were saying, oh, well, so then we don't have to spend that much money. We can actually do this cheaper, faster, better with older technology. And that factors into this environmental thing too, because they're saying that if we don't have to do this, then so yes, the environmental concerns are real. There's a lot of people are buying nuclear reactors to power their stuff, but it could be that that was a bump in the road. We don't know. And then some of the things about the future is agents. If you haven't seen this, you can just tell you can say, make a haircut appointment for me, and it will call the place and use a human voice to actually make a reservation at a restaurant or book tickets or book a vacation or whatever. So that's really cool. Or like, holy moly, the accuracy and like he was just talking about with Notebook LM, like yes, we're dealing with the accuracy issue that yes, there are hallucinations. No, there are not as many hallucinations as there once were. Like it used to just be funny, like when ChatGPT, I believe it was, that told people to put, like, if your pizza's not holding together or is making a cooking recipe, it says you can use glue. And so I think that we've moved past that. Privacy, this is, come up a lot about that in the chat as well. And then the overall use, that was what, like, and people were like, no, don't use it, don't use it, don't use it. And then people are like, oh, well, maybe we can, and maybe we should. And there's a lot of different reasons about why. And then the last thing is this big step forward, which is the Majorana 1. And if you haven't heard about this, I'm going to now spend the next 10 seconds explaining to you everything that I understand about it. And I'm done. So, I heard them talking about qubits, which I thought was a video game from the 80s. And then there was something about a tesseract and something about infinity stones. And then I kind of got lost. But the cool part about it was they were actually talking about, and this is what I understand, and I don't know if they understand. I don't know who understands this. It's a fourth state of matter. It's not a liquid, solid, or a gas. I don't know. I don't even know how to deal with a statement like that. Anyway, this is what's coming up now. It can build wormholes. So I don't know. Who knows where this is all going, but that's the next. So I was tasked with do a little quick thing, and what's next? That's next. What does it mean? We don't know yet. Nobody knows. Not even the people who are making it know. They don't know. So I put together some things, and some of this has kind of been brought up earlier, but like, if you're looking at, like, how do you use AI? What are some ideas for using AI? And these things have come up already. What am I not thinking about? What am I not considering? What else should I think about? This is good for faculty and students. That was brought up earlier. I agree. The devil's advocate, think about things that I've asked you to do and tell me why this is not the best idea. What are some alternatives to do that? And so you can just copy and paste these things into your conversations. And I have some more, but AI is good as a study buddy, but there are these new research models. If you haven't done any of the research modes, like in Perplexity and some of these other versions, ChatGPT have these deep research modes, and it will go out and find all of this stuff for you. I'm kind of glad I didn't have this during my PhD, because it made me do these things, but I think your PhD would be a lot easier now that you have these tools available to you. I'm slightly happy that I didn't have them, and jealous that I wish I did. Two minds about that. And then you can say, this is helping you with your design. Apply universal design for learning principles to this. Suggest multiple means of representation. Or you can say, I need some other kinds of assessments to do this. And this is one thing I put in to everything every time that I'm talking to an AI. I think I heard this somewhere. I get all of my stuff from Reddit and TikTok and Hard Fork, the podcast. So before you answer, like, type this into your prompt. Before you answer, repeat back to me what you think I asked you to do, and ask me 3 questions before you answer to clarify, so that we're on the same page and it's not garbage in, garbage out. You're responding to actually what I asked you to do. So I thought, if you say, what are some good prompts? Well, I just kind of broke it down to say, you can just put these words in: focus on learning, align with the objectives, remember Bloom's verbs, just put those words in. I'm going to construct materials. So I'm going to say, I've got an in-person class for, you know, whatever your course is. I want to design some instructional materials with measurable objectives. I want to make sure I include UDL and make sure that the connections between the instructional materials that you're going to create and the learning activities, make sure that you write that statement out for me, because then you could, you know, if you like it, what it gives you, or you could revise it, then you could actually use that in your QM review. So this is a good way to use this to help you build a QM ready you know, collection of things. And that was brought up earlier, but I just put that in there. And just remember the context is key. You need to add the information and say the do's and don'ts. For some reason, when it's scouring the internet, it's grabbing everything out there. So it keeps giving me all this stuff about learning styles. And I keep saying learning styles are not a thing. Please stop saying learning styles. If you want to talk about different modalities, we could talk about that, but don't use that. And I have to keep saying that. And, you know, hopefully one day we'll get to that point where it remembers it. But before you respond, repeat back to me and ask me questions. So I just keep adding those things in. And just along those same lines, and then I'm going to switch over to the tools. And these are just prompts that you can put in. Like if you upload your assignments, then you can say, analyze this. And so I won't read all these things, but these are just things that things to think about with the devil's advocate, or saying, I want to increase my engagement. I've got these things. What would you do to increase that? So just it's a good way to have a back and forth with the AI and see what it would suggest. And these are more subject specific prompts that you could use. So let's switch over to the tool area. So, for example, with presentations, if you're creating instructional materials, you can get it to generate you can work with AI to generate the ideas and then bring that over to Canva or Gamma and put that in and say, create a presentation, and it will. And it will create the whole presentation for you. Some extensions that I use, you can see them over here. This is Monica and this is Brisk, and I'll talk about those two in just a second. I love this image because this was something I created with Adobe Spark, and I was like, yeah, that's flawless, not a problem whatsoever. But there's images and videos there's just way too many to talk about. So I just put in 3 different places that you could go there's an AI for that, as a whole website with tools that you can choose. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to focus on these. I'm going to focus on a couple of these. Napkin and Math GPT I'd like to show you in addition to Monica and Brisk. And then at the bottom, use ChatGPT to help you create content that you can then create open educational resources with. You've probably got a lot of content on your own, and then you can say like that, what am I not thinking about? What are some alternatives? And then what I've been doing with my faculties, we've been using H5P to create interactive books, and if we have time, I can show those. And then for learning activities, I'll talk about Brisk in 1 second and H5P, but I want to talk about 3 things that, and this this is in conjunction with something that I heard earlier. That I was glad that he mentioned that, because then I could say yes. So when AI creates output, you can ask students to compare and contrast. Is this good? Is this what you're expecting? Is this, you know, so it can be a useful tool. Don't just use the output as the gold that you're going to build your city on. It is just a platform like any other platform, and you say, what can I do with that? So I was looking at 3 courses, and so when I was having this conversation with Hume about movies, I said, you know, I went to one of my faculty and said, it is a history of film course, but it's not the history of film. It is film in history. So what we're looking at is films, and then their context of when they were made, what they were saying based upon when they were made, and what we can extrapolate from that. So students do a lot of anachronistic thinking, where they're saying, I don't know how to think about that. So what we gave them some prompts and said, go to your favorite tool and have a initial conversation about this and see what it says, and bring that information with you to watching the movie so you can have some context for this. So the teachers, we created a whole bunch of instructional materials, and then they can go have the conversation with the tool, and then then they watch the movie, and then after the movie they can go back and we have some more prompts where they can have conversations with AI to have like a bigger contextual version of that because it's an online course and we're not so we're trying to say, can you use AI to get some one-on-one conversations going? It's because it's not about the answers, it's about the conversations that they're having with that and the bigger understanding of context. So we ask them to ask questions and then say, based upon the information that you got and the movie that you watched, how do you put those things together? And the students are, well, not every student, because that's just the way it goes, but the students who are participating with the degree of intensity that we were hoping for are really liking the process. And then a math course also, we're talking about math in the real world with buying homes and gambling and all these things. And so this teacher is finding ways for the students to, through prompts, to have conversations about expectations, and then she leads them through conversations about that so that they can actually use the information that they're getting to talk about real world issues. It's a contemporary math course is what that's called. If you all use Perusall, that's the best way. That one of my big things is making thinking visible. And basically that's from the same Harvard people who kind of came up with Perusall. And there are AI tools in Perusall that allow you to have conversations about what your expectations are about the use of that. Perusall is a social media annotation site where you can upload documents and the students can collaboratively work together on those documents to create better understanding of that. And so if that's something that you want to look at, then and feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Perusall or whatever. That it's a great tool, and it has an AI component. And the last one is PlayLab, um, which I think I learned from the QM group. But we one of the this course is called MDA, and I asked the teacher, what is the D for? And it's just medical assistance. The D was added because every course has to have 3 letters. So anyway, that's a fun fact. But what she did with PlayLab was she created a chatbot that's very focused, and it will get to that vocal part, but right now it's just in the writing part where she's able to upload documents into that. It's a closed system. Students go in and they can have patient simulations based upon the documentation that was uploaded. So the students have a series of questions that they need to ask, and then they can get information from it so they can have practice patient conversations and patient simulations by using this AI chatbot closed. And then here are
Gerald,
all, yes.
thank you so much, but we are out of time.
Oh, I thought I had 12:10. That's what I had.
But we need to allow just a little bit of time for questions if possible.
Sure.
I haven't seen any questions pop up. I will say, gosh, all of your infographics that you provided, I love those. So great job on that. And PlayLab is one of the tools that I use a great deal. It's an amazing tool
Sure.
for all sorts of different uses.
I,
So
I, yeah. So, yeah, I I wanted to show Napkin and Math GPT. I don't know if I can have a minute to do that really quick.
sure, take a minute. Take a minute.
So Math GPT, let me just talk about this. You can upload any PDF or a video or something like that into Math GPT. It has 4 different sections: math, accounting, statistics, and chemistry or physics. So I just uploaded a PDF and it will go through the document and like break it down. And then at the end I say, well, I want a video. So it will, oh, actually, I just wrote in here, can you just solve this worksheet? And it did. But then at the bottom I said, I would love a study guide for that. So I clicked on this create a video explanation, and it does. And this is the video explanation. So it made a video explainer, a minute and 20 seconds of that document. And then you can ask practice questions. So this is Math GPT. and it's got 4 different areas, and it will create explainer videos for based on any document, kind of a parallel to Notebook LM. And this other one is Napkin, and I don't know if anybody can give me a title or something that they want a quick 1-page overview of in the chat.
How about why learning styles is a neuromyth?
Um, yes. Sorry, let me. Why isn't it doing? Oh, okay. I don't want to get into why something's not working at the second. I'll just do this one, which is I did the same thing. All I did at the top was say, tell me 10 ways that higher ed faculty can use AI to make their life easier. And it generated this in about 30 seconds. And then this is the cool part about it. Next to each one of these, I can say, yeah, give me a something that goes with that. And I can click on that. And in 2 seconds, it will create something that could. I said I like this one, I like this one, and all of these things are adjustable by colors and fonts and everything. And each one of these subsections here, if I say I would like to, oh, I know it wasn't going to work if I'm trying to do it quickly. Oh, that's because I didn't. Okay, I accept that one. Now I can come down here and I love when I'm trying to do something quickly and it's not. But all of these have breakouts, like you can generate visuals based upon the words that it creates. So you can create really quick, fast documents that would help. And this actually, there we go. It just took a second. You can actually create little headers and things for it. And all of those are you can modify. But Napkin is Napkin AI, and Math GPT is and I have you see all these tabs. I've got tons more, but that's all we have time for. If there's anything else.
Thank you so much, Gerald. We really appreciate it. Great job. And it would be great if we could have you talk a lot more, but we are out of time.
Sure.
So what we're going to do with the rest of our time today is I'm sort of wrap up the conference here and leave you with a challenge or a charge, if you would like to call it that. So today we've explored AI's role in online learning from many different angles. We've explored how it can enhance course design, how it can foster engagement, support academic integrity, and we've examined practical strategies for integrating AI, and we've learned about high impact course design and ethical considerations. And throughout all of these sessions, one truth has become very clear to me. AI is not just a passing trend. It's truly a force that is reshaping education. And as educators, we have a choice to make. We can stand on the sidelines watching others define AI's role in learning, or we can step forward and join the conversation to help shape AI's use in ways that align with our values, our goals, our institutional missions. So some of you may still have doubts, and that is okay. We know that meaningful progress often begins with skepticism. Others of you are already embracing AI's potential. I enjoyed reading through the chat of what everybody is doing. It was great. So, wherever you stand, know this, that the work of teaching and learning is human work. AI does not, will not ever replace an educator. Rather, it empowers educators. It enhances our ability to design meaningful learning experiences and to reach our students in new ways and to prepare them for a world where AI has become very much a part of their reality. So, as we close the conference, my challenge to each of you is to take one step, one very intentional step. Maybe it's exploring how AI can improve accessibility in your online courses. Maybe it's using AI to streamline your content development, or which will of course give you more time for student interaction. Maybe it's simply going to be engaging in deeper conversations about AI's ethical use in education. So the future of online learning really is not about AI. It's about us, and it's about how we use AI to uphold the principles of quality education. So let's move forward together with curiosity, integrity, transparency, and a commitment to shaping AI for the benefit of our students. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Sue.